Daniel Dunglas Hume and His Feats of Levitation by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The name Daniel Dunglas Hume 1833 to 1886 is synonymous with the world of spiritualism and continues to fascinate people even today. Born in Curry, Midlothian, Scotland, Hume claimed to possess psychic abilities which enabled him to commune with spirits and perform extraordinary feats. Despite significant controversy surrounding his claims, Hume's legacy has persisted throughout history, inspiring both believers and skeptics alike. One of the most notable aspects of Hume's life was his ability, seemingly, to levitate in mid-air. Numerous accounts testify to this ability, including that of Sir William Crookes, a prominent scientist of the time. In his experiments with Hume, Crookes noted that under controlled conditions, Hume was able to float in the air for several minutes at a time. However, skeptics have argued that these accounts are the result of trickery and deception, and that Hume was nothing more than a skilled conjurer. Hume began exhibiting his supposed levitation abilities in his teens, often performing private shows for wealthy clients. Eventually, he became a popular public figure in spiritualist circles and gained notoriety for his supposed ability to float in the air and levitate objects with his mind. Hume's feats of levitation were documented in various contemporary accounts, including the Spiritual Magazine, the Spiritual Telegraph and the London Gazette. H.P. Blavatsky had an unfortunate altercation with Hume in Paris in 1858. After being introduced to Hume, she was impressed with his mediumistic and psychic abilities and became interested in spiritualism. In return, when she demonstrated her psychic skills, he was indifferent and called her a fraud. Levitation does not seem to have figured in this encounter. However, H.P. Blavatsky claimed to have seen levitation by Indian fakirs on many occasions. In Isis Unveiled, she offers an explanation of levitation relating to body polarity. She says, "We have just to change our body's polarity in order to have immediate access to levitation, as if we were one of those magnets which we played with as children, fascinated by the invisible force that repelled or attracted them. We can be in charge of our polarity at will, and we can be repelled or attracted by the greatest magnet, the earth." In Madame Blavatsky on Fakirs, published in 1877, she says, "Before charging me with falsehood when I affirm that I have seen both men and objects levitated, you must first dispose of the abundant testimony of persons far better known than my humble self. Mr. Crookes, Professor Thury of Geneva, Louis Jacoliot, your own Dr. Gray, Dr. Warner and hundreds of others have, first and last, certified to the fact of levitation." H.S. Olcott records H.P. Blavatsky demonstrating hands-free table tilting and rapping. She is reputed to have often done this at seances, and it is similar to levitation of objects performed usually at seances by Daniel Dunglas Hume. Indian fakirs have a reputation for performing remarkable feats. One of the most famous of these feats is levitation. The idea that a fakir could rise off the ground and hover in the air has long been a source of fascination, but is there any evidence that it is real? There is, unfortunately, no scientific evidence that supports the existence of levitation as a supernatural phenomenon. In fact, many of the so-called levitation feats that fakirs perform are actually just illusions that can be explained through the principles of physics and trickery. For example, some fakirs use hidden platforms or supports to create the illusion of levitation. Others use sleight of hand to manipulate objects in such a way that it appears they are floating in mid-air. These tricks are impressive and can be difficult to detect, but they are not evidence of a supernatural ability. It is important to note, however, that not all fakirs rely on trickery to achieve their feats. Some truly believe that they are able to levitate through the power of their spiritual practice. While there is no scientific evidence to support this notion, it is an aspect of their belief system that should be respected. The ability to make oneself invisible is another concept deeply rooted in Indian fakirism. If this faculty exists, then it could possibly be combined with the projection of a Mayavi Rupa, or body of illusion, which is another fakir feat in which an image of oneself can be projected at a distance. This is probably a form of telepathy, and in the West, Franciscan friar Padre Pio Forgione, 1887 to 1968, was reputed to be able to project an image of himself to people at great distance and sometimes combine this with remote viewing. The ability to make oneself invisible combined with the projection of an image above the person would very likely give the impression of levitation. Despite the widespread fascination with Hume's levitation abilities, many skeptics questioned the paranormal nature of his feats. Some scientists have suggested that Hume's levitations were likely the result of trickery or natural phenomena. For example, some observers have suggested that Hume could have used hidden strings or other devices to manipulate objects and create the illusion of levitation. Others have suggested that Hume's levitations could have been caused by natural phenomena such as eddy currents or convection currents, but these are unlikely to be strong enough to lift a human body or many physical objects such as plates or vases. In addition to scientific explanations, some psychologists have suggested that Hume's levitations could have been the result of psychological factors. One theory is that Hume may have been using hypnosis or suggestion to manipulate his audience. Another theory is that Hume was simply a skilled magician using sleight of hand and misdirection to create the illusion of levitation. Harry Houdini, 1891 to 1926, denounced Hume as a fraud and claimed that he could replicate his feats, but there is no evidence that he ever did. Despite the various explanations offered by skeptics, some individuals continue to believe that Hume's levitations were genuine. These arguments point to the numerous accounts of Hume's levitations from a variety of sources, including respected scientists and public figures. Some individuals have also noted that Hume's levitations were often performed in public in broad daylight and witnessed by large crowds, making trickery or suggestion unlikely. Another key aspect of Hume's legacy was his connection to the spiritualist movement. At the height of his fame, Hume was a sought-after medium and would often hold séances to communicate with the dead. Some of his most famous séances took place in the UK and the US, where he claimed to have contacted a range of historical figures, including Napoleon and Benjamin Franklin. Many spiritualists at the time believed that Hume's abilities were genuine and that he had a gift for connecting with the other side. Despite his reputation as a medium, Hume was not without his detractors. Many of his claims were met with scepticism, and he was accused of perpetrating elaborate hoaxes. In one famous incident, Hume was caught attempting to cheat during a séance by hiding a spirit trumpet in his clothing. This incident, along with others like it, led to increased scrutiny and criticism of Hume's claims. Overall, the legacy of Daniel Dunglas Hume is controversial. While some continue to believe in his abilities as a psychic medium and that he could levitate, others have dismissed his claims as the product of manipulation and deception. Despite this controversy, however, Hume was never actually proved to be an out-and-out fraud when it came to levitation, and he had a fairly long career throughout which many were trying to catch him out. His name remains an important part of the history of spiritualism and the paranormal, and continues to captivate the imagination of many to this day.